Welcome back, everybody, to the Classic Rock Podcast. Now, coming up on this show, the theme of legendary drummers continues. You might recall on the last show we were talking to Carmine Appice of Cactus and, of course, Vanilla Fudge about Temple of Blues, their brand new album. And the theme then of legendary drummers continues here in this show today, because we're going to be talking to a man whose career began even earlier than Carmine's, back in the mid-1960s, where he teamed up with Tommy Scott and the Senators. Yeah, didn't think you'd heard of them, but Tommy Scott went on to become one of the most famous voices in music across all of the genres. He was, of course, Tom Jones. And that is where Chris Slade, he of AC/DC, of course, began his drumming career. Well, Chris toured quite extensively with Tom Jones, playing the Vegas Hangouts, the Copacabana Club, etc., before moving on to work with Manfred Mann throughout the most commercially successful period of his career between 70 and 78. Indeed, it was Chris who suggested to Manfred that they should change the name to differentiate between Manfred of the 60s and Manfred of the 70s, which is where the Earth Band came in. And from there on, it was Uriah Heep, Gary Numan, along with Dave Gilmour, then the spell with The Firm with Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers. Great story that Chris tells about how he actually got the gig there working with The Firm. And then it was onwards with Gary Moore, which is where Malcolm Young saw him. And that was a night at the NEC, which led to the offer to join AC/DC. So we're going to be looking back at over, 6, 7 decades in the music industry. And of course, it isn't over yet, because Chris Slade's timeline have got a new album out. It's called Timescape. And we'll be talking about the album and what fans can expect. There's a 2 CD edition of this, which also contains reworkings of all of the AC/DC classics that Chris played on. I've listened to it and it's brilliant. Now, don't forget, you can catch up with all of the previous editions of the show via the website, www.theclassicrockpodcast.com. You'll find lots of exclusive video content and audio content on there, dating right back to when we very first began this, which was in, 2018, I think it was now. So it's all there. You can also find it on the Facebook page, which is where you can get in touch with us or comment if you would like, and indeed on the YouTube channel. Right then, time to move on. I caught up with Chris Slade about a week ago at his home, and we looked back through this quite extraordinary 7 decades that he has spent in the music business. Stories and tales of his time growing up in Pontypridd in South Wales, the meeting with Tom Jones and getting involved in that band, and so many stories. So, hope you enjoy. I wanted to start with where it all began for you as a musician. And obviously you have your brother to thank, because fate's obviously got to have played a bit of a part here. Because if he hadn't rocked at home with the big street band drum or got into the marching bands, you may not have discovered your love and talent.
Yeah, well, his fault. If you want to blame anybody, don't blame me, blame my brother.
Now, you grew up in, it sounds like something of a musical household, because your dad was he was a tap dancer and a singer, wasn't he?
Yeah, in what they used to call a concert party. So they'd go around the working men's clubs, entertaining. And
I mean, it must have been quite strange. A tap dancing is, I mean, because for people that don't know, you were born and bred in Pontypridd in Wales. I'm trying to imagine this sort of very, how can I put it, maybe male-dominated environment, and you got a tap dancer there. Where did he learn to do that? Where was that from?
I don't know where he learned it. He just picked it up as he went along, I think. In their 20s and 30s, Fred Astaire and all that,
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
very big. So tap dancing, Gene Kelly, tap dancing was a very big part of entertainment.
So you're growing up in a house. You have no TV when you were growing up. So was everything around radio and listening to radio?
Yes. If you were lucky, that is. And maybe your dad wanted to listen to a football match or a boxing match or something, so you couldn't use it. It was the grown-ups, that had the access
So
to it.
where did you first hear? I mean, I know people. You talked about your drumming influences, Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa. Where did you hear these guys first? I mean, obviously radio or
I'm not
record.
sure. It must have been radio. It must have been, because they would have a big band on at lunchtime, for instance. Big band being, brass and brass players, trombones, trumpets, saxophones. And that was a big thing also back in the day. So it obviously came from there. Maybe they started with it and said, oh, that's a Gene Krupa tune or something, something like that. So it was always there for me, really. I knew what I wanted to listen to, which is the real stuff, not the cover stuff, as we didn't have that phrase back then. But, it was, and then I suppose records started coming out. My elder brother had a record player. But the first album I ever bought was a jazz album.
Yeah.
From a movie, the soundtrack of a movie. But I'd always been listening to it on wherever I could. I've never thought about that, where I first heard it. It might have been a radio that you could tune in. That was sheer luxury to have that.
Yeah, because I remember, you listen to Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, etc., talking about the very early days and how you couldn't get hold of any of this, and then somebody would have an import record, and they'd all gather around to somebody else's house and sit and listen to it, and it was such a huge event.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, music was massive, much bigger than it is today, because it was the only form of entertainment, There was no TV when I was growing up. I mean, there was, of course, it had been invented. I'm not that old, but it was quite exclusive. There was, when it got popular, if you like, there was one TV set in our street. And that was
street.
A street. That was owned by a councillor, and he used to let the children in to watch the children's program at 5:00. So the whole front room would be full. I mean, like 20, 30 kids all sitting there watching children's TV, in the street. And there was one car, and it was probably his.
So you're in the shoe shop.
Yeah.
In Cardiff.
Yeah.
Is that shoe shop still there, by the way?
I have no idea. It was a chain. It was called Dulcis.
A name that trips off the tongue for those of you getting school shoes in the 70s and the 80s.
I don't remember that.
So you're in there going through your normal daily routine of activities, and in walks the one of the band members of Tom Jones's band, Tommy Scott and the Senators.
Tommy Scott, that's it. Yeah, he thought Tommy Scott sounded better than Tommy Woodward. That is his real name,
And so you just you heard that there may be a vacancy for a drummer, and so you just ask him, "Got any vacancies?"
Well, I went up to him. I learnt that morning that they'd sacked their drummer last night because a lady who worked in the shop used to go and see Tommy Scott and the Senators in this club regularly. And she said, you should get in touch or something and try to get you. I know you're a drummer, so why don't you? And then a few hours later, and I said, no, they won't, because they were in their 20s and I was 16, So it was a huge age gap. Back then, it was enormous. There was this cavernous age gap. They didn't talk to teenagers, 20-year-olds, didn't even come into their universe. So I eventually got the courage and I went up and said, all in one go, I heard you sacked a drummer last night and you need a drummer and I'm a drummer and I live by Tom, which I did.
And you were literally around there the same day then?
It was within hours that I learned of the vacancy that he walked into the shop I was working in.
Well, the whole fate thing is at play again here.
Oh, it's incredible. It's happened more than twice in my life.
So you're on the drum stool. Did you have any idea? I mean, I know Tommy Scott and the Senators were big again around that concert party circuit.
Yes.
Did you have any inclination that there was more than just a sprinkling of star quality on top?
Oh, he was always a great singer back then. Even he was tremendous. He was in his prime, actually. I would say at that time. He was told he was too old to make it.
Too old?
He was 23 years old.
Wow.
He was told at 23 he was too old to make it in the pop world.
And how did you cope with all of the female attendees and the various items that were thrown on the stage?
No, that didn't happen back then.
It didn't.
That happened it started happening in the Copacabana in New York City. We were playing a show there for a week. We were there for a week. It was packed every night. Somebody knows the Copa. It ain't that big, It's a big name, but a small place. And it was absolutely jammed. And this guy came in with a lady, shall I say, and there was nowhere for him to sit. So he must have been a bit connected, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they put a table, just one table, on the dance floor, which is Tom's stage. There was like a 10-foot square dance floor in front of where the band was sitting. And just one table, so he must have been really connected, And Tom used to take napkins off the tables and wipe his forehead because he sweated so much. He always used to sweat profusely. And this time, he went to this table to get a napkin, and he picked the napkin up, and she said, "Oh, wait a minute." And she stood up, and she took off her panties and went, "There you go." And Tom took them and wiped his brow, And of course, that story got out and become apocryphal. And, people now throw pants. They don't know why they're throwing them, but they do, And that's where it started. This lady, for want of a better word, doing that. It's quite entertaining.
But you, of course, were extremely well behaved, and at the end of the night used to go home and sleep, be ready for the next night. There was no after match drinking.
No. Wouldn't dream of it.
So you ended up, I mean, you moved on from there. You did a bit of, you did some session work with a band called Chapter 3 before Manfred.
Well, that was Manfred, in fact.
Yeah.
And
then he gets in touch with you.
Was his big band project, if you like.
So
I was playing with a big band at the time, just on a Sunday, perhaps, something like that, on weekends. If you weren't working, it was full of the top session men, brass players and saxophone players, because they just wanted to play, And I used to do it sometimes. And
So the evolution of his band from the pop band into the big band, and then when you get going again properly, heading for that that debut album, it was you that suggested using the name Earth Band, wasn't it?
yes, well, we were all racking our brains going, we want something that rhymes with man. Okay, we'll have something band. The Manfred Mann's brother, space band, head band. And I went, what
Yeah.
about Earth Band? They went, okay, we'll use Earth Band. So that's where it came from.
And it was a completely different style of music as well, wasn't it? Because it was more pop orientated with Mighty Quinn, etc., in the 60s. This had a whole new direction.
Yes, we used to do Mighty Quinn also, but it was a progressive band. Mighty Quinn turned into a 25-minute jam, because that's what we did on stage. Was this a bit like the Grateful Dead or Cream,
Yeah.
It was more like that than it was Earth Band on record. We could never capture that. I think actually the truth is Manfred didn't want to capture that on record,
right.
because we always used to rehearse like hell. I mean, every single day. When we weren't working, we'd be rehearsing. And I always said to him, Manfred, you're rehearsing the spontaneity out of this. I've always said that to him. He knows that. And I spoke to him a few years back, and he said, "Oh, I don't do that anymore." And I said, "Good."
Do you think that you got the credit that you deserved in that band? Because you talk to people about Manfred Mann's Earth Band, and they come back with, "Oh yeah, two hits." But if you look at the coverage that you got in the States, and there was a review of the excuse me, there was a review of the first album and Glorified and Magnified from Robert Christgau, who was one of the big reviewers of the time over in the States. And he said, it's an extraordinary cult record, one of the most underrated of the 1970s.
Wow, I didn't know that. But, I think Earth Band was underrated, even though we got a number one single. That was a bit of an accident, really. But I didn't know that guy said that. No idea at all.
Yeah, I mean, it garnered some incredible reviews, all based in the States. So you would have had him, you would have had probably Lester Bangs was one of the big reviewers of the time, Rolling Stone.
I know that name, yeah.
Yeah. Good Earth. This, when you think about marketing, record marketing for, when you're putting out a new album, this was quite a good one. That I saw when you released that album, the first people that bought it, did they not get a 1 square foot of land up on the Brecon Beacons?
Yes, which was the size of the record sleeve, actually. And that record sleeve is a contract. So if you bought the record, you got the land free. It was a tiny, it's foot square you got. You couldn't dig in it or dig for gold or anything like that on it, because it was for conservation and mainly for the red kite, which is, there's a lot around now, red kites, but they were dying out. They're a fantastic bird. They're like eagles. They are massive.
Yeah.
But they've got a V tail. You can see when they fly. When Timeline, actually, when the band was driving Oxford area on the freeway, on the motorway, I said to Steve, the singer, Stevie G, I said, when I've driven here on my own, I saw 30 red kites, all in the same half an hour. He said, nah, that's stupid because they died out. I said, no, they ain't, mate. There they are. And I said, you count them. and we got over 30. We got 50 or 60. It was all the same bird, of course, flying past and pretending to be a different bird. You could tell that, It's Charlie, the red kite. And he was like, he wanted to be seen, so he kept going ahead all the time of us, We were doing 80 mile an hour. They can fly faster than that.
Brilliant. So what was it that drew you to the Bruce Springsteen song off the Gritty from Asbury Park album? Now, Bruce was not big at the time. So how did that song drop into your lap or onto your radar? And someone thought,
we were given that. Manfred and I were each given a copy of that album. We played in a club in New England. I can't remember the name of it right now. I will, but I can't remember it right now. And this journalist was there, and he gave us each, me and Manfred, a copy of Greetings from Asbury Park. Now, it had died a death, gone down the tubes. Nobody bought it. So that was Bruce's first album.
Yeah.
It's a million seller now, but when it came out, and I wonder why it was a million seller. But anyway, his version is completely different to Manfred's version. I say Manfred's version because it was Manfred did the arrangement with the clink clink piano and things like that. So Manfred brought it to the band, and see what do you think of this, guys? And we said, sounds great. Let's do it, because we always did that. We always voted what we were going to do. And was it good enough, or did we think it was okay? People were interested in it. And we said, yeah, let's do it. So we did it, and we all put our stuff into it. We always, with every song with Earthbound, except for maybe the first album, we always had our input in it. The band was, it was quite good like that. We all had an opinion. And when we used to mix, we would all stand at the desk and have about 2 or 3 faders each, because there were no automatic faders back then. These days, with digital desks, you do it once, you rehearse it, you do it once, and the desk remembers what volume the bass was at, what volume the drums were at. Whereas in those days, you had to put it. You could mark it with a piece of chalk. All high technology, And we used to stand there and mix. Even we had some long songs, like 10 minutes, some of them. It'll take us. It takes you more than that to mix it, because you got to practice the mix. It was too much for one person, like an engineer. So everybody got involved. And we got involved with the arrangement also. Manfred has said in print that it was my idea to do chopsticks in the middle. Ding, 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 ding. That one that most people try to play when they see a keyboard. So I said, hey, let's put chopsticks in the middle. Manfred thought for a second, because he's quite adventurous musically, And he said, yeah, it's a great idea. So we put chopsticks in the middle. So it made it, sort of, I don't know, funny, whatever. I don't know what it was.
But when you finished it, you sat and you listened to the completed song. I mean, did you think, hey guys, this is going to be the big one for us?
No, not at all. We thought it was good. When I did the demo for It's Not Unusual for Tom Jones 10 years before. And we knew, all of us, that was a hit record. That was a #1 record. And it was. And Tom, in fact, got into a huge argument with the manager in the pub with us all around and people all around us. And he said, I can't have that song, because it was done for Sandy Shaw, who was a girl singer at that time. I say girl singer, she was. And it was written for her. So they said, no, you can't have it. It's for Sandy. Tom said, if I can't have that song, I'm going back to Wales. I'm giving up. He was probably 24 at the time. He was going to give up the music business. So he eventually got it. Apparently Sandy heard it. She said this many times too, on record. She heard it and thought, that song belongs to the guy who's singing it. She didn't know who that was. And that sort of made Tom Jones. And so,
do you ever speak to Bruce Springsteen about that song?
I think Manfred called him once, and it was like, hello. And he said, oh, hello, Bruce. It's Manfred Mann. Are you asleep? Yes. Okay, I'll call back. He never did.
What do you, I mean,
there was no internet in those days. You couldn't contact people. And
as somebody said to me the other day, if you wanted to call, it was Carmine Appice was talking to me about it. He said, listen, if I wanted to call somebody in England, he said, you'd have to use the international operator to put you through.
Yes. I remember trying to get hold of my wife once, and I was living in, anyway, I said, I can't remember my phone number even, but can you get me 0932788 Middlesex? And the operator goes, could you spell that for me? And I said, yes, MIDDLE, middle, SEX, sex, click.
She cut you off.
She cut me off because I said the word sex in Middlesex.
Brilliant.
So, yes, Carmine's right. I know Carmine quite well, actually. We're the same age. And he's great at self-publicity. I'm not so great at it. He is the greatest self-publicist. It's amazing.
You think about the songs that you guys, if you take away, some of the latter stuff you did, your contribution to 70s, Carmine's, with Rod Stewart and Do You Think I'm Sexy and Young Turks, and you with Blinded by the Light. Let's not forget as well, Dave Is on the Road Again, which was another song, which was originally about 8 minutes long, wasn't it, on the album?
Yes.
Before it became a single.
That was us trying to capture the live thing. So we did it live in a club, into a desk, proper desk.
Yeah.
And we do that with Timeline, and everybody knows the lyrics. I'm amazed. 50 years, 60 years on, they know the song. It's a good song.
Songs. They're classic songs. They will never go out of fashion. They will always be played. And you played with another very, very famous singer-songwriter, Frankie Miller.
Yeah. I did that
after Manfred had finished. Frankie, again, a lot of people talk about him now in very hushed, revered terms. He never really got the credit, perhaps, that he was due as a singer-songwriter.
He was really good.
You worked with him. You remember were you working on the big hit he had, Darling?
Yes, that was me. Yes.
You were on that.
Yeah.
So you were on top of the pops every week.
Tom was in the States and he was living in LA and he was recording country music.
Yeah.
And he did Darling as a cover. I don't think he knew it was me on it. But, it's funny that they both should do Darling, that song. So
Frankie actually duetted, didn't he, with Phil Lynott on Still in Love with You for Thin Lizzy. Did work with them in the sort of very early 70s, which was, I didn't know actually until I saw it. But that album you were on, Falling in Love, was his most successful album. So you were bringing the star there. Yeah,
he's wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So everywhere you were going, success arrived pretty soon afterwards.
Yes. I'm. Every band should hire me for a little bit because my success will rub off on them, of course.
Uriah Heep was a bit of a departure. I mean, prog band, but they were going through a bit of a period of change. But you were on the last album with Ken Hensley, Conquest.
Yes. It's that Mick didn't want to continue with the lineup we had, which was actually a boy from Cardiff, John Sloman. We're still friends. He was Welsh, of course, and we're still good friends. And that album, I didn't know it was different for Uriah Heep. I had no idea. I just played drums, it's okay, we'll do this one now. All right. So there's no sort of premeditation, if you like. It was just doing my job, doing what I'm told. And I think it was quite a good album, actually.
Well, a lot of people said at the time, "Oh, it's gone way too commercial, etc., etc., etc." But it did what the 3 previous albums hadn't done, which was actually made the charts, the top 40 album charts, or top 50. And again, if you go back and look at some of the reviews, I think it was the Record Mirror at the time, which was quite big. This was just before Kerrang magazine and the hard rock magazines came along, but they gave it a 5-star review. So, it was, when you look back now, quite a successful album.
Right. Yeah. Well, I didn't know any of that, because they never tell the drummer anything, to be honest. No matter whether it's management or band, Where were you last Wednesday at rehearsal? You didn't tell me. It was rehearsal, In the pecking order, drummers get the short end of the stick,
So considering where you had been in your career up to then, Tom Jones, Manfred, Mann, Uriah Heep, Frankie Miller, and a few of the other things you'd done, what was it that drew you to Gary Numan? I mean, because this is a completely different musical genre.
Yeah, well, I co-owned a recording studio in Shepperton,
right,
Middlesex. There's that word again. I hope we don't get put off the air because of me saying Middlesex. Anyway, I co-owned a recording studio, and Gary started recording there because he didn't live far away from that, and that's how it came about. And he wanted a drummer one day, and I went, okay, I'll play drums. And then he asked me in the course of doing that album, I Assassin, if I knew any fretless bass players, because he wanted to use a fretless bass player. I said, I know just the man. Now, he was a friend, Pino Palladino, was the bass player I'm talking about, and he's with The Who now. And he was with Paul Young for many years, of course. Wherever I hold my hat, hang my hat, I'm sorry. And that was Pino. But when I knew him, he was a friend of John Sloman's. They went to school together. Because he's Cardiff. He sounds like he's Italian, but he's from Cardiff.
A big Italian community over there.
Yeah, his father was Italian, of course, was Disapino. Well, that's Pino's name, Disapino Palladino, which means little Pino. No, it means little Giuseppe.
Got to be careful how you say that.
It means little Giuseppe. And so he's always shortened it to Pino, And, he's an incredible bass player. Just, fantastic musically. And when I first met him, he was a guitarist. He used to play double neck like Jimmy Page, double neck guitar. And then he went to fretless bass. And when I asked him to do the Gary Numan thing, he hadn't done any recordings on bass whatsoever. So, that was his debut.
Do you know what? It's funny because when he first started Pino, I was talking to the late Robin George. I don't know whether you ever met Robin George.
Yeah.
Who sadly passed away not that long ago, actually.
I did an album with him.
Oh, you did? Right, okay. Well, he was working with Pino in literally 1979, 1980, when his mum used to drive him to rehearsals because he didn't have a car because he couldn't drive. So he started with Robin George.
Wow, I didn't know that. I really did not.
Yeah, sad that. Actually, he's a lovely guy, Robin George. So you said earlier on when I mentioned the word fate, your brother coming in with the guitar. Sorry, the drums.
Yeah, get your facts right, man.
In terms of being in the right place at the right time and having just about the best day of your life ever, was the day that you got the 2 phone calls. First, from Dave Gilmour, hey, come and start a band. And then coming back after you've been down to the pub to celebrate, Jimmy Page is on the phone.
That's right. I couldn't.
Is that still the greatest day?
I wrote it in red on the calendar. I've probably still got that calendar somewhere. I can't remember the date, but I wrote it in red. Phone call from Gilmour, phone call from Jimmy Page. It's like, I couldn't believe it. I had to go back down the pub after that.
It must be one of those moments. If you're having a bad day or a quiet day, you're in a reflective mood. When you're, lying in bed, sitting in a chair, you look back to that and you get a smile on your face?
Oh,
it brings a smile.
Most definitely. It's unprecedented to get a call from the 2 greatest iconic guitarists in the world on the same day, offering you a job. It's like, wow, it goes beyond comprehension, actually.
And did you not say, oh, look, I'm working on a project at the moment, and Mick Rabb, oh, don't worry about that, Mick's in the band as well.
Yes. And I also said to Pagey, I said, oh, Jim, you won't believe this. Hour and a half ago, I said yes to a tour with David Gilmour. And he stopped, and I thought, oh, it's the end of that then. And he went, that's okay, we'll wait. Him and Paul Rodgers, we'll wait. I took the phone away from my head and looked at the phone, like a comedy movie, What? And then, oh, okay. And he said, just let us know what you're doing and when you're doing it, and we'll wait. We're in no hurry to...
So tell me, how pissed were you at the end of that day?
Not much, because I went down to the pub for lunch. Or at the end of that day, yes, probably a little, a little squiffed, shall I say, possibly.
And so they, just going back to the firm. So Page in the end settled on you, and they had looked as well at Bill Bruford and Palladino.
Yeah, Pino was involved in the beginning.
Yeah.
Again, because it said only bass players, and that was it. In the end, Pino pulled out. I've no idea why, to be honest. He might not have wanted to work with me. Who knows? We went on the road together with Gary Numan. But maybe he had the looking forward. Wings. Sorry.
Were you looking forward, though, to getting out on the road with them, thinking, great, we'll be playing a Free, Paul Rodgers, Led Zeppelin, and all of this great stuff, and we'll be writing some new stuff as well. It'll be an incredible band. But the truth was, they didn't want to play any of their own previous materials. And no Zeppelin, no Free, no Paul Rodgers, nothing. No Bad Company.
Yeah. Yeah, and Bad Company was huge, by the way, especially in America. That was a bit of a disappointment. We rehearsed a few things, but it didn't happen, So that's life. I mean, that's what you go along with.
Yeah. The first album, or in fact, both of the albums were remarkably successful, more so again in the US than they were in the UK. You did a cover version of You Lost That Loving Feeling as well on there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which was a great version. Mean Business, top 30 in the US. So it was a successful band.
Yes. It was. And it was a very good band, as you can only imagine. Tony Franklin is a tremendous bass player. He is a fretless monster. That's what he calls himself. That's his sort of email, if you like, or his handle or whatever, fretless monster. And he's a tremendous player. And he was a great asset because he sung and he played keyboards also, because he's classically trained keyboard player, piano player. And, it was a great band on stage as well as in the studio. Every day when I'm on the road, which is, with quite a lot, all over Europe, and they say, this is my favorite album, and will you sign it for me? And it's a Firm album, and they mean it, and they're genuine when they say this is my favorite album. It's not Led Zeppelin or whatever. It's the Firm, which is amazing when you think of the success that is, that has been generated by other bands like Zeppelin. Wow. I mean, who hasn't got a Zeppelin album, At least one.
Not many.
Yeah, at least one.
But you only played 2 dates in the UK. You played at Middlesbrough Town Hall and the Hammersmith Odeon. That was it.
Yeah, I never thought about that. But yes, I remember being in Ham Odeon because I was a Timeline singer, Stevie G, was at that concert. He keeps telling me.
Great.
He went along.
Were you surprised that it died out as quickly as it arrived? I mean, I know they said afterwards that it was only ever going to be a 2-year project and whatever, but the reaction that it got was very good.
A lot of journalists said we were in it for the money because we called ourselves a firm, which is a business type thing. And the second album was called Mean Business, which Paul came up with. I thought it was a fantastic title. It can mean so many things. We mean business. Yeah. It's a mean business, which it is. And, what it is. There's no getting away from it. You've got to have rhino hide to put up with this business, the way people treat you and the way you get treated by agents, managers, bands. So, it really is a mean business. And I thought,
has there ever been a time when the band, the band, thought about getting back together?
Yes.
Has there ever been any
but this
discussion?
Other band got in the way. What are they called?
Who's that?
Led something or other. Yeah. Oh, Zeppelin. That's it. Led Zeppelin. They did a concert, and they didn't know, even because I talked to them, whether they were going to continue or not. In the end, I don't think Robert Plant wanted to continue. So they didn't, I suppose. And he's done some great stuff since,
That's amazing stuff.
Yes, his career has been amazing.
Yeah. And you can understand, actually, if you're not selfish for a minute and saying, I'll get back and do a Led Zeppelin, you can understand why he didn't want to go near all of that madness again.
Of course you can. People can't, but I think musicians understand completely why he didn't want to go back there then. Back there then, He didn't need any money. He could do what he wanted to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So who would choose that level of intrusion into your life if you didn't need to have it, and you'd experienced it all when you were 30 years younger? I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But you're that thing that you have where you travel and you become hugely successful. I took you to you were working with Gary Moore when Malcolm Young came to see you, and then you go down to do that audition for AC/DC. Would you have gone had you have known that there were 100 other people that had been auditioned?
Oh, I would have gone. I would have tried out, you know. They told me afterwards, but, and they were top people too. I won't say any names, but they were top
No,
people.
no.
And they would call the band and say, look, don't tell my band, but I really want to try out with you guys, because everybody wanted to be in AC/DC, you know. And I bought Highway to Hell when it came out, so I was a bit of a fan as well. And I played that album to death. And my favorite song was Touch Too Much.
Yes, yeah. Great song.
Yeah, it is.
One of those nights when you turn out the lights.
Yeah. Great alliteration.
Brilliant.
Wonderful alliteration.
And everything comes into view. I know. It was a great song. Great song.
It is. We do it with Timeline. And we did it with AC/DC with Axl Rose. He requested we did it.
I saw that, and he did a bloody brilliant job of it.
Yeah.
I thought.
I tell you, he did a great job with AC/DC. You know, he's not Brian Johnson. He doesn't try to be Brian Johnson. You know, Brian is Brian.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
has a unique voice, and it suits the band. Axl came along, and I was amazed at his voice, at his vocal range. I didn't know he had a voice like that. I really did not. I'd only ever heard him in Guns N' Roses, and I didn't like too much what I heard, to be honest, some of it. And I heard...
So what did you think? What did you think then when you got together with the boys? You ended up at Little Mountain Studios. Mike Fraser was the sound engineer and the mixer.
Yeah, he's
that
great.
was his first album with on the Razor's Edge, and he's been with them on every one since.
Yes, because he's really good at what he does. Really good. He's a producer now, I believe.
Yeah.
Whereas he started as an engineer with Bruce Fairbairn, you know?
That's what I was going to say, because you had, as the producer of the Razor's Edge, you had Bruce Fairbairn, who was just about the biggest name in rock music production at that time. He'd done Slippery in New Jersey with Bon Jovi, done Aerosmith's return to mega stardom. So what was it like working with him? What do you remember about working with Bruce?
It was really good. He asked me, can you go boom, boom, when they go thunder? And I went, yeah, of course. And he seemed incredibly surprised that I could go boom, boom in time with my own playing, you know? And it's like, I went, of course I can do it. It's dead simple. Any drummer in the world could do it. And, you know, just give me a count in, play the song and take, okay? Yeah, all right. You know, it was like, he was incredibly surprised that I was able to do that. And he wanted a few times, you know, around, because he wanted as big a sound as possible.
Well, he succeeded in that.
Yeah.
The album, when it came out, again, I mean, if you go back and you look at some of the reviews, the one that I like most, it said tight, highly strung, menacing, and entirely worthy of the status as the grand comeback of the legendary rock and roll runts.
They were genius writers, actually. When, you know, Angus and Malcolm together, they were absolutely, you know, and George also helped, I think. I don't know about the credits, but I mean, he helped with arrangements, maybe, Brother George. Because he used to be in the Easy Beats in the 60s.
Yeah.
So he knew his stuff. And he, you know, they're clever blokes. All of them. Probably the whole family, who knows. And, you know, they were genius writers. And Malcolm, especially, was a genius guitarist. The best rhythm player I have ever worked with. Because, you know, I've worked with a few. I don't mean guitarists, I mean rhythm players. And he never missed a beat. He was always on time. He never went wrong, and he made my job so easy because I just had to follow him. And it was, wow, he was the engine room for Cliff and me to play against. He was tremendous and a very nice guy, actually.
I mean, everybody loved it. I mean, it was an amazing song. It still is. I mean, possibly, if I say this, I know I'm going to get a load of grief. Possibly their most famous song, I think.
Yeah, well, Back in Black has sold more, I think. But Thunderstruck's up there.
But as an individual song.
Top 2 or 3,
And the funny thing is about that album, everybody remembers it for Thunderstruck. But the biggest song on that album in terms of chart success was Money Talks.
Oh, right.
Got to number in the top 30 in the US. They've never had a song that's charted higher.
Right. Yeah, it was very singly, if you like, because David Mallet, the video producer, wanted me to act up a bit. And I said, I can't act up in this because he said, oh yeah, it's a bit like a Cliff Richard song, isn't it? I said, yeah, it is a bit. So you can't go, money talks. You can't do that, which is on Thunderstruck, though. I could do all that because, I've been doing martial arts all my life. So I knew what aggression was. And I grew up in South Wales. So I knew all about aggression. So it just came natural.
Is that the only Christmas song you've ever done, by the way?
The what?
Have you ever done is that the only Christmas song you've done? Mistress for Christmas.
Yes, I think
the woman in red at the bottom of my bed.
I think it is. There are some songs I really like on the album and some songs I don't really like. And I'm not going to mention any of them.
Listen, whoever came up with the line, what was it? I want to ride on your reindeer and ring your bells.
Yeah. Oh, he was obviously talking about Santa.
Sensational. Donnington in the Monsters of Rock Festival was an amazing event as well. I mean, they filmed it. The live album came after it. You were also on that, and you were also part of, I think, what is still the biggest outdoor concert event in history, which was in Moscow, in the Monsters of Rock there.
Yeah.
What was that like to be part of?
That was unbelievable because the crowd stretched over the horizon. Even from stage, which was built up, you couldn't see the end of the crowd. And they had towers for PA all the way along it, synchronized together, so everybody got the right sound at the right time. And it was a free concert, and I think there was 1.5 million people or something. The Russian people were asked, who would we going to put a concert on? The government said, we're going to put a concert on. Who would you like to see? Guns N' Roses, anybody, Bruce Springsteen, and they all said AC/DC. And it was fantastic. It was a great show. It always is a great show with AC/DC, actually, no matter who's playing drums or guitar. Nothing ever goes wrong. Once it's gone wrong in like 60 years, I think. Once. Because I've talked to Angus, and that went wrong because his guitar just didn't work properly, and nobody could fix it. And it was all sorts of things that were wrong at that time, but nobody knew it. They were trying to figure it out, and it took us half an hour, 45 minutes before they figured out how to get it fixed. And this is all the technicians, top technicians, in the world. Yeah. And they couldn't figure it out. So we had about 45 minutes in one show. I can't remember what it was. And that's the only time, Angus told me after, it's the only time in the life of AC/DC that something went wrong. We had to stop the show.
Incredible when you think the number of shows that they've played.
Yeah.
But I mean, as great as the band is, and In fact, everybody loves them. Everybody loves AC/DC. It's like
It's a
Led
great
Zeppelin,
show.
Rolling Stones. They're just, everybody loves them, and for good reason. But they can be brutal in the way that they make decisions. I mean, and you were on the end of that because you'd worked on the sessions for Ball Breaker. And the next thing you know is the phone's ringing, and it's, well, we don't want you to go. We want you to stay, and we're still going to pay you, but we're going to try, Phil.
Yeah, that's right. Malcolm called me personally. It wasn't the manager or anybody. It's nothing you are not doing, or it's nothing you have done, but we're going to try Phil out. And they wanted me to stay on, and I said, well, that's it. I'm gone then. He said, no, we really like you to stay around. We'll keep paying you. And if I was my father, I would have said, just take the money and sit there. And, I didn't. I was a bit too principled, actually. And I said, look, if it ain't broke, Mal, don't fix it. But, I can understand Angus wanting Phil. He's the original. You can't argue with that. It's like saying a different drummer in the Beatles, Ringo's not playing because they got a different drummer. It's the same thing. Phil Rudd is the drummer for AC/DC. There's no doubt about it. People misunderstand me. They think I'm bitter and saying, oh, you think you're better than Phil. No, that's not the case.
But I read somewhere that a quote, and you can tell me if this is true or not, that it affected you quite badly. And I saw the quote where it said that you didn't pick up a drumstick for 2-3 years afterwards.
3 years.
Is that true?
Yes, that's true. I thought, well, that's it. That's the music business for you. It just shows you what the music business is like. It's like David Lee Roth when it said, you're in one day and out later on the same day. Which I think is tremendous. Here
so
today,
did you stay
that's
on?
what it is. Here today, gone later today.
I like that.
It's brilliant.
Did you stay on sort of reasonable terms with the guys?
Oh, yes.
After that, I mean.
Oh, yes, very much so. I'm going to see them in France, actually, in the next few weeks. So yes, we're on good terms. I hardly get on bad terms with anybody, to be honest. That's just the way I am. I can't hold a grudge or anything like that. So,
well, life's too short.
Yeah, it is really. Hey, don't be funny.
You're very good. But then
it's a matter of timing.
Such is the way that your life has gone. You're in Switzerland, and the phone rings, and it's AC/DC on the phone. It's Malcolm on the phone. One of them's on the phone. Hey, we want you to come back.
Yeah. I was on the road with Timeline in Switzerland.
Yeah,
and it came up.
Incredible.
And at the end of it, I was on the phone to the manager for about 30 minutes, and he was explaining things and telling me about this, telling me about that. And at the end of it, I said, did this come from the guys? Because I kept saying to everybody, they're not going to phone, okay? Look, and people, my friends and people in the street would say, have you had the phone call yet? I go, look, they're not going to phone me, okay? After the last time, I thought they would have had enough of me, when I said I'm gone. I kept saying, you're not going to phone, and then ring. After months and months, like 3 months of everybody knowing that Phil couldn't make it for various reasons. And, I was really shocked when they called, And I don't know if I said this just now, but I said, did this call come from the guys? And the manager said, yes, of course it came from the guy. I wouldn't make this call without their asking me to. So I was even more surprised by that, to be honest.
And what was it like to get back out on the road? Because the shows were great. I mean, you'd done all the auditions for the new singer. What was the atmosphere like? Was there any degree of trepidation? Because obviously Brian had the issue with his hearing.
Yeah.
And there was quite a bit of fallout from that, because it wasn't the fact that, he couldn't do it. He knew he couldn't do it, and they wanted to continue. So they're obviously going to use somebody else. I think the issue was the way it was dealt with.
Well, I think Brian thought that they wouldn't use somebody else, to be honest.
Right.
I mean, who could possibly do it with his voice the way, even if he thought it was bad. I told him it's because I was using in-ear monitors, everybody uses them these days. And I could hear everything really clearly. All the guitars, the voice, the drums, everything. It was fantastic. I've said that it's the best I've ever heard any band in my life. Now, journalists took that to mean that I thought that it was much better with Axl Rose than it was with Brian Johnson. I didn't mean that at all. And I would never compare like with like. I wouldn't say music is not a competition. It's getting on with people. And playing and complimenting what somebody is doing, whether it's a bass player or a guitarist or a singer or what. That's your job as a band, to complement each other, to make the right music. Otherwise, it's not going to work properly.
I saw the shows. I saw the one at the Olympic Stadium in London, and the difference was the set, and it was great to hear some of the songs that simply weren't done. Some of the Bon Scott era stuff. I mean, Touch Too Much, like you said at the beginning.
If You Want Blood,
and If You Want Blood, You Got It. I mean, two iconic songs off of that album that they'd not done for I don't think they'd ever done them. Maybe they'd done them back in the 80s.
Yes, they stopped doing those songs. It depends whether they like them enough to do it or any reason. I've no idea. I never spoke to anybody about that. So I don't know why they choose the songs they do choose to do and why they don't do other songs.
What did you, when you saw the Desert gig a year ago? The problem with looking at things like that on the internet from phone film stuff is it sounds dreadful. It sounds absolutely dreadful.
If somebody's taking it on their mobile phone, they're awful sound. Awful.
But are you surprised at how amazing they have been on this tour, this Power Up tour? Because Brian's voice, Angus, even with the grey hair, but still in a school uniform and still playing like he's 25 years younger, the whole thing is just, it's an event. They're playing as well as they have done for years.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't even know. They just buy the T-shirt. They don't know what the band is and what it's about and what a great show that Angus puts on, because it is just Angus, because the band don't do anything. You're not allowed to. So, Angus is there doing his thing, and it's a great show. And the lights are fantastic, and the camera work is fantastic, and, there's nothing like it. And the music is great. It's hard driving music.
So if the phone rang again, would you be willing to step in?
Oh, yeah, of course. And if Gilmour phoned me, I would also, especially Gilmour. But, I like to work. I mean, that's my whole raison d'etre, is to play drums. And I
Well,
said to myself, I want to play this until I can't play anymore.
well, I was just going to put one of your quotes in because we bring this up to date, and the new album. One of the quotes on the press release: "I will rock till I drop, or I will drum till I drop."
Yeah.
That is it. I'm always going to be there. So, Timeline have been recording bits and pieces here and there for over a decade. So this album coming together it's taken a long time. It's been in the can or in the works for a long time.
Which now, the AC/DC?
No,
Oh,
your
this
new
one.
album.
Well, it was over a period of about 2.5 years, the last 2.5 years that we've always been recording. But it was always covers, like AC/DC, and because I was thinking of a live album or something, you know, AC/DC or Asia, all the stuff that's on this Timescape album.
Yeah.
I've always sort of recorded, you know, told the guys whenever we got spare time, we'll go in the studio and record. And we'll do it straight live, you know, we won't mess around with overdubs and things like that. Maybe a little bit, but it's really what we do live. Exactly the same arrangements and everything else that's in it. So we didn't... And we've been doing that for like 10 years, but these last 2.5 years, things just came. I've never written a melody in my life before this. I'd written lyrics, but I'd never written melodies. And I was so surprised when I could. And great asset is Mike Clark, the keyboard player, because we don't live far from each other, and I could go over and go, it goes like this, Mike. And he'd sort of interpret that into a keyboard part. No, I'm pretty good at humming, actually. And he'd say, like, do you want major or minor? And I was, minor on this one, I think, you know. And
well, I was listening to it, and the start, the opening of the track, Sundance, is a great track. I mean, it's got this very heavy prog rock feel. It's got a really good feel. But what isn't a surprise is the influences that play out through the album are related to everything that you've done.
Yes, it's really, very diverse album, life. And I've had a very diverse life and career, actually. So it shows that, you know, and like the song Living the Dream is about self-belief.
Yes.
It's about people having self-belief. Believe in yourself. You know, it's so important.
I shut my eyes listening to that song, the Living the Dream, and it was like, oh, John Anderson. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I just thought, We Will Survive, the second track, I think it is on the on the album.
The band wrote that. That's their song. I didn't have much to do with
it. That had a bit of a Uriah Heep feel to it. That type of
they do like prog,
late
they
70s.
do like prog music. The guys.
Yeah, it works well. And then you dropped in Joybringer.
Yeah. Well, I wrote the lyrics, you see, so I thought, well, it's an original, you know, as far as this band is concerned. And the same with Questions. It was an Earth Band song. And it fitted. And I wrote the lyrics. So, you know, along with the music, with which was, I can't think of it, what it is, the classical thing.
The planets, isn't it? Holst.
No, Joybringer was Gustav Holst.
Yeah.
And I wrote the lyrics again. Me and Gustav, we went to different schools together, you know. And we had to get permission to do it. And we got permission. We had to then get permission because, you know, because that's what we had to do. You don't these days. But so we went to his committee, if you like, and his sister, Imogen, was the head of that committee, and we got permission. They'd never given permission before. for the melodies to be used. And
Wow.
Manfred did a great arrangement of it. It was Manfred again that did the changing. You know, it's the same melody as Holst, but it's rocked up, shall I say. So I'm very pleased about that. And Questions was Schubert's third racket. to quote Basil Fawlty.
It slows everything down nicely, though.
Well, I had to get
Questions,
the transition between, I think it was
it was Back with a Vengeance.
And, you know, Time
that could have been an AC/DC song, by the way.
Could have been what?
That could have been an AC/DC track, Back with a Vengeance.
Really?
Oh,
I can't hear him doing it, but thank you for that.
No, you listen to that and you think, yeah, I could hear Brian Johnson doing that.
Well, funny enough, Bun Davis, who's the AC/DC singer in the band, because we have two singers, you know, you can hear his harmony on that. James Cornford sang it, and so did Bun Davis. So he sang it with the AC/DC voice.
Well,
and Sundance, he sang with his straight voice, if you see what I mean. His own personal voice. So when he sings AC/DC, I think he sounds tremendous. I think he sounds just like Brian, to be honest.
Well, I have to say, when he comes up with, there's a second CD with the AC/DC covers, and you're looking at it thinking, well, this is a brave choice.
Yeah.
And I thought, Thunderstruck. And so I put it on, and you're like, wow, this is really good.
We like that live. Everybody is so surprised.
Really good.
Because we don't copy AC/DC. You know, nobody wears shorts. And, they don't pay SGs, you know. People listen with their eyes, you know that.
Yeah,
they listen with their eyes and they go, oh, he's not doing ductwork. He sounds nothing like AC/DC.
Well, it does, actually. It sounds a lot like them, actually. It sounds like, I'll tell you what it sounds like. It sounds like somebody has taken the album, and you see it these days, and people do remixes of originals. It sounds like a remix. But the song that I like the most, actually, on there wasn't an AC/DC song. It was the cover of July Morning from Uriah Heep.
Right. Yeah, that's Stevie G singing. People, sometimes I've done reviews, they don't realize it's two singers. And I make it very plain on the album cover that there's two main singers. We all sing, by the way.
Yeah.
But those are the two. Stevie G and Bun Davis are the two main singers, and Stevie G plays bass now with us, as well as singing.
Well, it was a really pleasant surprise, actually, because sometimes those second CDs of cover versions can be throwaways, but there was a lot gone into that, and you can tell there's a great deal of, first of all, respect for the tune, respect for the music and where they came from.
Oh yeah,
and they delivered great versions, I thought.
Yes, I'm very surprised. It's the record company that wanted that on it. So I thought, well, we've got other covers as well. You know, it's not just AC/DC, and that's not what we do live. We do all those songs live. And, there's Asia in the mix. There's July Morning, Uriah Heep. And we do many others that came from my career, because that was the reason to start the band. I wanted to play my career and finding musicians that could switch from, say, AC/DC to Tom Jones, or even want to switch from AC/DC to Tom Jones, are very few and far between. They got to be really good players, as you can appreciate, and to do it with conviction too, and honesty,
So what's the future? So the album's coming out. Have you got live dates pending?
We've never stopped working in 10 years. On the weekend, this last weekend gone, we were in Lyon, in France.
Oh, wow.
And in a few weeks.
The gastronomic capital of the country.
Yes,
so you
it
ate
is.
well down there.
Yeah, not in a backstage dressing room. It's not the gastronomic capital of the country. You want chicken? Yes. How do you like it? Warm. No, sorry, you've only got cold chicken. Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, it's sold out. Oh, okay.
So, what about UK dates?
Yes. We were in Scotland just a month or so ago, really up north in a festival. And we're going to Wales at the end of this year. Pontypridd, back to Pontypridd.
Back to Pontypridd.
Yeah. Doing a gig there and a few other gigs too in South Wales. So I'm looking forward to that because I haven't been back for years, actually. I mean, playing music.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just looking forward. And we've been to Poland this year. Czechoslovakia, or should I say Chechnya?
Czechia, yeah.
And we're all over the place. Italy in 2 weeks, I think I said that.
Yeah.
Next gig,
And
I can't remember the next gig.
Perfect.
Oh, it's Italy.
And so
sorry,
plans,
it's Italy. That is in 2 weeks' time.
And you're always recording, so I suppose a live album might be in the offing at some stage.
Yeah, we're always doing stuff. And we play it live into a desk. You know, classic, just like Earthband did with Davies on the Road Again. And if it needs a bit of overdubbing, we do that. But usually it don't require much. And anyway, the guys are really busy as musicians. So it's, can you come next Wednesday? No, I can't come Wednesday. I might be able to come on Friday morning. Will you be there? No. And it is like that. Because they're very busy musicians, because they're so damn good, and they teach as well. So, it's
brilliant.
It's great. And we get on really well all together on the road in a van for days on end. And I love it. With AC/DC, It was private planes on the last time, 2015, 2016. So I'm in a transit van. I love it. It's back to the basics,